On this episode of Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 steps to becoming a virtual fee-based financial planner.
Running a successful fee-based financial planning business is tough, and escaping the shackles of a commission-based financial planning practice is terrifying. When all you want to do is learn from those who know. Learn from financial planners who are there on the front lines doing it each and every day. What if you could just open their kimono and take a look inside to learn what works and what doesn't? Now there's a place where the secrets to running a fee-based financial planning business are revealed to those who believe. Fee-based financial planning mastery. Ease your mind.
Hi everyone, it's Scott Plaskett here, and thanks for joining me. In this podcast, you will learn what's working and what's not in the world of fee-based financial planning. In each episode, I'm going to open my kimono and let you take an insider's look at what's working and what's not in my practice to help you take your business to the next level. I've been a fee-based certified financial planner since the early 90s, so believe me, I know the challenges you're facing. So get ready to learn not from a teacher, coach, or guru, but from a colleague who's on the front lines just like you. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my email internet newsletter to get the most up-to-date tips on how to build and grow your fee-based financial planning practice by going to feebasedfinancialplanningmastery.com. Hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you today about some of the things that are new with me and what I've been up to over the past little while. Basically, what my focus has been for the last week actually has been trying to find everything I can, find ways of making the podcasts that I'm doing sound better. I'm kind of a bit of a picky audiophile and that sort of thing. And when I would listen back to some of the podcasts that we were putting together, the initial ones, I thought, it just didn't sound as good as I thought it could. And so I just started looking around and doing some research, and I found really an amazing resource that I've been able to turn to. And really every question I've had with regards to making sound better have been answered. And now what I'm working on is when I'm doing this recording, I'm not in a professional studio. I'm basically in a home office. The problem with a home office is that it's very square. It's got very hard materials around. It's got a hard desk, hard walls, cube room, and there's really not a lot of sound absorption. So I'm starting to appreciate the benefits of those egg carton type walls where they disperse and absorb a lot of the bouncing sound. So I've been spending a lot of time doing that. I haven't really been able to put a lot of attention onto the walls because any of those sound dampening things actually look kind of ugly. But what I was able to do was I was able to pick up a Heil PR40. Now that is a microphone, and honestly, if you're going to be doing any podcasting whatsoever, the only microphone you want to get is the Heil PR40. It is phenomenal. It just seems to have a smoothness and a richness and a warmth to it that no other microphone seems to have. And it's a dynamic mic. I'll just give you a little piece of advice. You don't want to go with a compressor mic, a condenser mic, because it just picks up too much sound. It's very good if you're wanting to get sort of a full room sound. But the problem with that is that you get the full room sound and you get the bouncing noise that's coming off and the movements, and it's amazing the sounds that it will pick up. So with the Heil PR40, it's a dynamic mic. So when you speak into it, it picks up the sound. When you're speaking away from it, it doesn't really pick up the sound as much. So you're not getting any of the indirect sound from the room and the bouncing of the recordings and whatnot. So it's really kind of cool. I'm not 100% there yet. I've got the microphone. I've got it on a stand. I still need to get a shock mount, and I still need to get some things for that. And so as we go forward, you're going to hear that the sound of the podcast is going to get better and better and better. And if you want any further information on what I've been doing as far as podcasting and the equipment that I'm using, just send me an email and I'll gladly send you a listing of everything that I'm using. It's a very simple setup. It's not very fancy. I've seen a lot of guys and a lot of podcasters that are putting together, good mixing boards and they're recording to a separate device. I'm actually recording onto a hard drive on a computer, and it seems to work for me. It's I don't make my living from podcasting. It's really just a way that I can get my message out there. So I'm not as concerned as some of the other guys are with well, I guess I'm concerned with quality, but I have heard some horror stories of computers crashing and losing the information, and I just haven't had that happen to me. Now, knock on wood, it's not going to happen, but now that I've said it, who knows what's going to happen there. But bottom line is, it's been working for me. I'm hoping that the sound is getting better and better. The sound before wasn't all that bad. When I hear some of the other podcasts that I listen to, they still sound horrible. So I don't know why they're not picking up on this, but basically, we started out with a condenser mic. We've now moved to a dynamic mic, and I think it's just sounding a lot warmer and better. So hopefully you agree too. And let's just get into the feature segment. We'll start there.
And now for our feature segment.
Okay, everybody. Now, what we're going to be talking about today are the 5 steps to becoming a virtual fee-based financial planner. Now, this is a topic that is very, very important to me. It's very, very important to the way I like to run my business. I don't want to be tied down to a desk. It really is important to be able to have the freedom to run your business, to make sure everything gets done properly, but not have to be location specific. So it just allows me to travel a little bit, to basically not have to be in the office on a daily basis, but still get the work done. So what does it mean to be virtual? Well, my definition is to be able to work anywhere, anytime, and be able to get 90% of your daily work done. Now, I say 90% because sometimes you just need to be in an office environment in order to, I don't know, whether it be print properly or file something or whatever. So there are those times when you do need to be in an office environment. But for 90% of the time, I want to be able to be completely free from any shackles of being at a desk. So what the non-virtual typical setup looks like is this. You've got an office that you go to, and in your office, you've got a desk, you've got a chair, you've got a computer, whether it be a desktop computer, which is, more often the case. Sometimes you'll have a notebook computer. You've got a telephone on the desk, you've got your landline, you've got your cell phone. You've got your assistants that are in-house, sort of in the office with you. The software that you're using on your computer is all client-based, or it's on a server within the office, but it's still kind of client-based in that you've got to be there to access it and everything. Or you actually have to log into, if you're working from home and you log into the server at the office, then you still have to be somewhat tied to things. Now, there are some challenges with all of this. Now, this typical setup is what I'd say 95% of people are set up like. Now, more and more people are starting to become more and more virtual, but they're not completely virtual. They still sense that they have to be in the office. So my goal is to make sure that no matter where I am, it doesn't matter. As long as I have an internet connection, I'm good to go. So let's start off with this. So step number 1. Get your head wrapped around the idea of going virtual. One of the challenges that I faced when I first started on this was I like the idea, I like the concept of going virtual, but at the end of the day, it seemed to be, it was a mind shift that I had to make, because I had to understand that I wasn't going into the office every day, but I was still required to get work done. So I started doing things like testing myself and going and working from a coffee shop and going to a Starbucks or going to a Tim Hortons or going wherever. Some place that wasn't my home, that wasn't my home office, that wasn't my head office, that wasn't my main office, and working virtual and seeing what is it that I'm missing. You see, we tend to like our office because it kind of becomes our own little cave. And when we get our cave, we tend to always want to come back to that cave. We feel secure in that cave. It's our protected place. And we need to start breaking that a little bit. So the problem with the cave is that the caves get messy and cluttered, and it's where all stuff gathers. Your inbox, it's where everything just starts to accumulate, and we want to start getting away from that, because the accumulation is clutter. The clutter is mind-numbing, and it keeps you away from being focused on what you really need to do. So going virtual makes us ruthless with our time. It creates less clutter, and we don't want to carry the clutter around with us, because when you're going basically to a coffee shop, you don't want to have anything with you. You want to have as little as possible, because you don't want to walk into all these big stacks of papers and whatnot. So, getting over that mindset of saying, okay, well, how can I make all this work? And is this something I'm going to be comfortable with? And making sure that you've got the workflows and the efficiencies in the office that will allow you to become more virtual is important. So step number 1, get your head wrapped around the idea. Now, assuming you've done that, now what you want to do is completely cut the cord. So find a way of saying, okay, let's cut the cord. So start off with, you got to get away from your desk. You got to get away from having a desk, an office, that sort of thing. So what you want to do is not have a place that you can call your own. You don't want to have an office. Get away from having an office. Focus on having a bunch of meeting rooms. So what I did in my practice was I actually moved out of my office and gave my office to somebody else. And then I said, okay, that meeting room is going to be mine. Now, it's going to always be available as a meeting room, so I can't bring stuff there and leave stuff there. At the end of every day, it's got to be completely clean so anybody can walk in and use it. But while I'm there, I'm going to utilize it, and I may spread my papers around and stuff, but I'm only going to bring with me what I need to get done for that day. So get away. You got to cut the cord with regards to having that office. Then what you want to do is get used to not having your own chair. You see, we get so, we somewhat have a relationship with our chair. Get used to being in different locations, having different chairs and different setups. Sometimes it's not going to be as comfortable as it could be, but bottom line is you got to get used to being more transient, more not focused on, not being in your chair. And I know people do spend a lot of time and money on their own chair, but the reality is that if you're going to be virtual, you got to get away from that sort of possessive mentality with regards to chairs. So your chair becomes your boardroom chair, the coffee shop chair, whatever. So don't get too attached to any one type. Now, on your phone, you've got to completely go virtual on that. You can't have a landline that you rely on because the landline can't follow you. So you want to start incorporating things like virtual attendants, voice over IP phone systems where you can control them. Really, at the end of the day, what I do is we have a voice over IP system at our head office. And instead of me having an extension, which is, for me, I've just said, look, I don't want the extension, but give me an extension number and I'll just make sure that forwards to my cell phone. So wherever I am, when people call, they call through to the office and it comes through to my cell phone. So I just make sure I have that with me all the time. Now, that's really all you need. So you can have simple call forwarding to your iPhone. Again, I'm a real proponent of iPhones versus a BlackBerry or anything like that. And there's a variety of reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with simplicity of use and so on and so forth. Some people say, oh, I can't get used to the keyboard and all that. But you know what? I did, and I was a BlackBerry user for years and years and years, and I switched over to the iPhone and have had no problems ever since, and now I couldn't imagine going back. So in any event, you want to make sure that you've got your phone set up so that you can be virtual and that your phone, that it will follow you. Now, I also recommend from a phone standpoint, and this is more of a time-saving issue, don't answer your phone. Don't answer incoming calls. Now, some people will say, and I know I'm going to start getting emails on this saying, oh, what are you talking about? That's not customer service and so on and so forth. Well, I'm not saying you don't want the call to be answered. I'm just saying that you don't want to be the one answering it, because I did a little test and I found that almost 95% of calls that came into me could have been handled by somebody else or shouldn't have been handled by anybody at all. So what I do is I have it set up where it instantly comes in. If somebody goes to my extension, I say, look, I'm just not available at this time. However, if you want immediate assistance, press 0, and it will go to one of my assistants. And then that takes care of everything. And what I've been doing is you just want to start training people to not call you. Speak with your assistant first, speak with somebody else first, get the information from there. And then basically at that point, when the call does come back to you or when somebody does need you, they'll come and get you. And that's when you can spend some focused time on that. So really focus on not answering your phone so you can have it forwarded to you. But the only reason why I have it forwarded to me is that I want to know that a call's come in so I can expect to see a voicemail come through. And if a voicemail does come through, that means that they actually did want to leave me a message. They did want to speak with me. I very quickly listen to the voicemail, and we'll talk about that because the voicemails that I get are all emailed to me. And so they come in and I listen to the voicemail, and usually I get back to people within a few minutes. So people are really appreciative of that because they're like, wow, I just left a message for you and that's great. Thanks for getting back to me. The other thing that you want to do with regards to phone system is make sure you have a virtual fax, both incoming and outgoing. So what I recommend as well on my system, whenever our office sends a fax, we image everything. So we don't have a fax machine. So what we do is we do everything via email. So we have a system where we have a phone, whatever the fax number is that we're sending it to, that's going to be the first part of the email address. And then we have an @ sign that goes in just like every other email address. And then we have a certain, I guess it's a URL or domain that it goes to. And when it goes to that, it instantly then sends off as a fax, and then it gives us a confirmation email back saying that the fax was sent successfully, or the fax wasn't sent successfully, so we were able to track that. Incoming faxes, again, are all done. They get sent to us via email, so we have one person that basically gets all the faxes coming in. You can, if you wanted to, you could have your own personal fax number, have it come in, so every time a fax comes in. But again, I found as well that anytime I went to look at all the faxes coming in, again, 90% of the faxes were either junk faxes or they just didn't need my attention. So I make sure that everything goes filters through one of my assistants, and they take care of the faxes. And if there's something I need to take a look at, then they make sure I do that. So from the phone system, completely cut the cord there. Get rid of your landline. Get a virtual attendant. Get a virtual system. Don't answer your phone. Have all your calls forwarded to your phone. Have your voicemail set up so that it emails you your voicemails. And with regards to faxing, make sure that your faxes are virtual, both incoming and outgoing. Now, we're going to talk about computers. So with computers, the problem with a computer is most people have desktops when they're in their office and they have these nice powerful machines. Well, you need to get away from your desktop. You got to get rid of the desktop and go to a notebook computer that's got a Wi-Fi system on it. So you can hook onto any Wi-Fi network that's out there. And if you don't have a Wi-Fi available, then you want to make sure you have some sort of a USB stick. Or what I do is I just tether it through my iPhone and use the data package on my iPhone for gaining access to the internet. So it doesn't matter where I am. If I can get a cell signal, I can get an internet signal. So that's great. So you want to make sure you're using a system that is a notebook computer. Don't go with one that's very, very large because you're going to be carrying it around with you. So I've just got a little 13-inch that I carry around, and it's my lifeline. I can't live without it. So you also want to get yourself a commercial grade, properly managed notebook. Now, one of the things when you have a notebook is that everything is on that notebook. And as soon as you take that computer out of your office, you now are running the risk of having it being stolen, dropping it, spilling coffee on it, whatever it may be. I mean, it's just the risk factor goes up tenfold. So make sure the notebook that you're getting, don't chintz on your notebook. It's got to be commercial grade, properly managed. And what I mean by properly managed is you want to have some sort of a service that manages the system for you. So here's what I mean by that. So I right now am a PC user. Now, I'd like to transition everything over to Mac, and we're going to get to that. But right now, I'm a PC user. I buy all of my PCs from a company called No Panic Computing. Now, this is in Canada. NPC is the company that I use. Now, the system that I get is a commercial grade HP machine. It's got all the features. It's power packed. It's loaded up with memory. It's loaded up with speed. It's an amazing machine. High quality, durable. It's got a rugged case on it. It's got encryption of the yin yang. I mean, I log on using my fingerprint as the log on. They manage my entire system for me. So I've got 24/7 access to them. I highly recommend you do. If you can and you can get service by No Panic Computing, I wouldn't go anywhere else. After my first experience with them, I've never had a bad experience with them. They've always been there 24/7. I've had situations where on Sunday afternoon I've been hit with a virus. Call them up, and basically the guy said to me, look, give me a half hour, 45 minutes. I'll call you back and it'll all be fixed. Remotely, he dials in or logs onto the system, goes in, cleans it all up, gets rid of the Trojan, the horse, whatever it is that's in there, and cleans everything up for me. I didn't have to do any of it. And the virus I got hit with was a pretty bad one. He got everything set up for me. It also has an offsite backup thing. So every day, every night, the system is taking any change that was made, any new file that was added to my computer, and it's backing it up offsite. So my entire system is backed up off-site so that if anything were to happen, if I have somebody who steals my computer, well, number one, all my data is stored off-site. And number two, they've got a great system where if your computer does go off-site and somebody does steal it, you can basically notify them, they push a button. The next time your computer hooks onto the internet, it sends a signal to it and it wipes the entire computer clean. So you're basically giving yourself complete protection with that. So, protection around your data is incredibly important. So don't chintz on that. Make sure you've got a really good high quality offsite backup system. Encrypted everything. Everything must be encrypted. Our system's so encrypted that if somebody were to grab the computer, take the hard drive out, ditch the computer and try and plug the hard drive into another computer, that hard drive will not be able to be read by anything but the computer it came from. So if they can't log onto my machine and they try and hack it out and then put it into another machine to try and read the hard drive, reality is it's not going to work. Now, the likelihood of that happening is slim to none, but it's nice to know that is there. The other thing that you get when you have a managed system is that all of your licenses for all the software that's preloaded on the machine They're all managed by somebody else. I was running into all these issues where, beforehand I would have to get licenses for all my staff. And then, it was a nightmare, and everything was it was a nightmare. So I never really enjoyed that whole process. This way, they manage all the licenses and it all works. The other thing is that, they manage everything. I pay one monthly, basically it's a lease payment for 3 years. I've got a contract with them. They handle everything. They've got all the tech support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These guys are good. So this isn't a commercial for them, but I will say if you are in Canada, and I don't know if they work with people from the United States, I don't see why they wouldn't, but definitely if you're in Canada, you want to be talking to No Panic Computing. They do actually have managed desktop machines as well for those who want to have your staff set up on desktop machines, but I like to have my staff on notebooks because sometimes, your staff can't come into work and they need to be somewhat remote, so you want to give them the flexibility as well. So definitely take advantage of the no panic computing. We have, and we've just loved it. Now, as I said, I do want to migrate over to a Mac. I think a Mac is just simply a better platform. Just heard so many better things about it, and so we definitely want to do that. If you're going the Mac route, or if you've already gone the Mac route, and I'm telling you I haven't done that yet, but I am planning on doing that. Again, commercial grade, go with a MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro, my recommendation is max out, as I do with every computer, max out the RAM, max out the hard drive, get the fastest one you can, because you're going to have it for at least 3 years, and you want to make sure over that time period it keeps performing to your liking. I would recommend getting the Apple Care support, so you've always got somebody to call. Apple, my experience with them and having to call their tech support, they actually are quite good, and so there's always been some assistance with that. They also, if you're running a business environment, Apple has a business consultant within their each store that you can talk with and sort of work with them on having business plans and that sort of thing. And if you're a Mac user, this may be not news to you, but I will probably be moving to a Mac on my next system, but I'm going to be running Parallels so that I can run Windows, because there are I just want to make sure I'm not caught short when there's a program that does need Windows. I want to be able to run that on my machine as well. So definitely, get yourself a commercial grade notebook. If you haven't got one, then it's definitely a route you want to go so that you've got that available to you. I use mine all the time. I'm always on the road, and I go to coffee shops, and it's just an amazing experience. Now, you also want to have an iPad or a MacBook Air. Now, anything that's solid state, basically. So I have an iPad. I use it all the time as well. When I don't want to carry around my notebook, which is just a little too large sometimes, I'll take my iPad with me. And because of the way I've set up how I access all my data, I can pretty much access anything on my iPad. So you definitely want to take a look at that. The iPad, there's a program which is called Splash Page. Now, if you have a desktop or if you have a notebook that you want to be able to tap into, your iPad you can install this program called Splash Page on there, and it basically gives you now control over your computer at a different location. So you can use anything that's on your computer. You can actually go onto your iPad and you can control your computer and sit there as if it was your own computer. So definitely want to look at that. The MacBook Air is just really what it is. It's a very, very light, easy to use, full functioning computer. It has a keyboard. Some people don't like the keyboard if they like to do a lot of typing. They don't like the keyboard, the sort of virtual keyboard that comes up on the iPad. I'm actually thinking that I might convert to a MacBook Air because I do type. I'm a sight typer, so I don't really need to look at the keyboard. I can type really quickly, but when I'm using an iPad, I do have to use I do have to watch, and I'm basically typing with my fingers, so it slows me down a little bit. But using Splash Page, you can put it on both, and you can control the computer. So you don't want to be, you're not going to be storing a lot of information on your iPad or your MacBook. But anyways, Splash Page would be a nice solution to allow you to control your computer. They're very portable. The integration, the simple ease of integration that the iPad and MacBook Airs have with regards to cloud applications is phenomenal. Same thing goes with your iPhone. Again, I said earlier in this podcast that I'm a real proponent of iPhone. I think that little device is so powerful. There's so many things you can do on it. I'm using it all the time. I've got podcasts that are on there. I've got data streams that are coming in. I've got my email. I've got my calendar. I've got my database. I've got everything. There's really not much I can't do if I'm out and I've just got my iPhone. I guess I can't write a full financial plan on it, but bottom line is that it does give me access to all the critical things that I need over that when I'm out of the office or not at my notebook computer. You're also going to want to invest in a really good USB headset. You're going to be doing a lot more online type meetings, so it will definitely come in handy. And don't skimp on that. I mean, they're not expensive to begin with, but you can get a $40 USB mic, USB headset, or you can go for a $100 one. I've got one. I've got a couple, but I've got one that's a wireless one. I quite like having the wireless setup. So you just plug in a little dongle into your computer, and then it gives you a wireless hookup. There's also a plug-in one, but I've gone with a Logitech headset. Anything's good. Just go with a high-end one. Go with a more expensive one. I think the sound quality is better, and it's going to be a little more comfortable because you will be using them more and more, and it'll come in handy. You won't regret that decision. Now, we're going to talk about software. So when I talk about cutting the cord, I'm serious about cutting the cord. My goal is to make sure that I can run my business from anybody's computer, which means I don't want to be computer dependent. I really believe in this strategy because let's just say suddenly your computer dies on you. It happens. Or let's say you drop your computer, or you're walking along, you forget to do up your briefcase, or I've actually got a sort of a backpack type briefcase that I carry, but it's got big zippers on it that zip right down to the bottom of it. And sometimes I'll pick it up and the thing will flop open. Well, I've had times where the computer is sort of almost, if it didn't have that safety strap over the top, would almost have slid right out. Well, if you're picking it up and it's got a 3 or 4 foot drop on it, a drop from where you're slinging the backpack on your back, and it flops open and drops the computer, you could damage the computer to the point where you're going to have to get it replaced. Well, that's fine. The hard drive can be replaced, and you can basically do a backup and restore of all your information. But it's the downtime you've got to pay attention to. The downtime will just completely take you out, and you'll lose your mind not being able to access your information. So what I want to make sure is that I've got everything that I can use anybody's computer from anywhere and never have to worry about not being able to get work done. So that just gives me more freedom, because sometimes I may think, I don't even want to carry my computer. I don't want to take anything with me, but I know where I'm going will have a computer I can use, and so I'll just simply log onto that and take care of it. So some of the things that I've incorporated into our practice is definitely number one, you want to incorporate Google for Business. Now, Google, we all know Google as the most amazing search engine available. Well, that technology is brought into their email as well. So Google for Business, what that is, it's a paid service. And what it does is it allows you, if you've got your own company domain, and let's say you've got your own URL and you've got, your email address, and it's, your name at yourcompany.com or whatever. Well, all you do is you simply set it up so that your mail exchange record says, okay, instead of sending it to an exchange server or something like that, just simply send it to these mail exchange servers, MX Records, which are on Google. And you tell Google that your domain is whatever it happens to be, .com. And now your email is all done through Google. So you log into your Google account, and once you've done that, you've got access to all the Google apps. So it starts off with Gmail. You've got your email in there. And I love it. I mean, I've learned to really, really appreciate the importance of having a Gmail account, because with that Gmail account, there's nothing I can't find. You never really delete anything in Gmail. You always just archive it. And that was something that, at first it took me a little bit of getting used to, because I was always pretty clean and pretty clear about, okay, if I'm not going to need this later, I'll just delete it. But now what I'm finding is I just archive everything. And what that allows you to do is later on, I mean, there may come times when I know for me it's happened where I have to think back and say, oh yeah, I remember dealing with that person or that topic, and I remember a key word that was in the email, but for the life of me, I can't remember who it came from or whatever. Well, simply just search on that key word or that word, and it will bring up every email that has that in it. Well, I mean, the ability to find things is incredible. So you don't have to worry about keeping it all organized and whatnot. You just basically archive, and you can always recall anything. And its intelligent nature is phenomenal. So definitely take advantage of Gmail. I'm also using Google Docs. Google Docs is just sort of, in my mind, it's a less robust version of Word, but it allows me to, if I'm working on whether it be a podcast, show notes or a concept or something like that, I can just work on it And now I can be collaborative with all the other team members that I have. So they can instantly, I can share it with them and they can instantly log on. So now what it does is it saves you from having more than one copy of a document. You see, one of the problems that you have when you have documents is that, you create a version and then you email a copy to somebody else. They get it, they make some changes to it, they email it back to you. You get that, you make some changes, you email it back to them. Right now, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 versions of that same document. Now the question is, which one's the latest version? If which one did you like the best? Well, when you're dealing with a virtual system or a cloud-based system, you've got one document that everybody's collaborating on, and you can allow people into that. You can share it with them. It's an amazing way of doing it. You can actually see real time the collaboration going on. So it's a phenomenal system with the documents, with the spreadsheets and the videos and PowerPoint presentations. Everything can be stored there, PDF files, whatever. So we kind of have it as like our server in the sky that we just, anything that's important, we kind of save it there, and then everybody can collaborate with it. I've actually taken it personally where personally what we do is when we have recipes that we like, well, we now store all of our recipes on Google Docs, and we have a special folder that we put it into. But the great thing is when you come back and you say, you know what, tonight, let's say we've got some chicken. Well, we're able to go in, we type in, search for any recipe that has the word chicken in it, and boom, it comes up, and here's a whole list of recipes that come up that we can go through that allow us to search based on the ingredients we have for that meal. So that has nothing to do with business, but it's sort of another way that we've taken advantage of using Google Docs. The calendar is phenomenal. The calendar functionality in Google is amazing, especially because you can put other people's calendars on yours, you can overlay them, you can book appointments, you can request appointments for other people, you can see who's accepted, who hasn't. It's very, very robust. So probably the most powerful calendaring system I've ever seen. And again, the great thing is that you can access it from any computer, anywhere. Backups are important, and they do have a system. It's a free system that we're using right now called Spanning Backup, and it saves all the documents and all the calendar and everything that's going on there. It saves all that information, so if you accidentally happen to delete something, you can go back into your Spanning Backup file and say, hey, like I accidentally deleted that, I want to get it back, and sure enough, it'll give you the copy back, and it restores everything right back in. You go through the tutorial on Spanning Backup, and it's amazing. They went through an example where somebody accidentally deleted somebody's calendar, and sure enough, it restored everything. So it's very, very powerful, very, very safe, secure. I just can't speak highly enough about it. I think it costs, $50 per user per year. So you can't beat that. For all the functionality you get from it and all the collaborativeness that you get from it, it's just unstoppable. The other thing that we use is we use Salesforce.com. Now, you're going to hear me talk a lot about Salesforce because we've spent, I don't know how many hundreds, thousands of hours. We started out with Maximizer. We then migrated to Goldmine. We customized the bejesus out of it. We got to the point with Maximizer where we tapped it out. It was going, uncle, I can't take anymore. You've got to move on to some other platform. So we moved from Maximizer to Goldmine, simply because Maximizer wasn't able to do at the time what we needed it to do. Moved into Goldmine, and Goldmine was great. It really is, I think, out of all the solutions that are out there, probably one of the best from a client-based system. But the challenge with Goldmine is that you've got to have a certain, they may have some differences now, but at the time I was using it, it was a server-based platform. So we had to have a server. My last server, I think, cost me close to $10,000. And it was a very expensive black box that, sat in a server shelf somewhere and really just didn't even look nice. So we had that server, had to have that maintained. The database, if it got too much going on the server, it would crash. We'd have to reboot the server. We're constantly doing things like that, and it was getting to be a real pain in the butt. So I looked around and said, well, there's got to be a better solution. Came across Salesforce.com, and when you start looking into Salesforce.com, you realize the functionality and the customization work and everything you can do. There's nothing it can't do. I'm blown away by all the customization you can do and how easy it is to do the customization yourself. I was amazed when we migrated from our Goldmine database to a Salesforce database at how quick and easy these guys were able to make the migration happen and customize it to exactly what I needed it to do. And I'm talking customization, not just look and feel, but automating things, having some smart technology built in so that if you book a client for an appointment and then the client at the end of the appointment, you book a second appointment, then when you move them from one appointment stage to the next, the system's smart enough to say, hey, wait a minute, if they're going into a second appointment, then we need to trigger these things to happen. So it assigns tasks to my staff saying, you need to send out this letter to the client, thanking them for the appointment, summarizing the notes, get ready for the next appointment, put this package together. So it's got intuitive technology in it that allows it to anticipate and sort of recognize once you've mapped out what the process is in the workflow you want it to follow, then it will make sure nothing gets missed, and it keeps on assigning the tasks to everybody, and as long as everybody follows the tasks that are being assigned to them, everything gets done. So it's an amazing system. Their logic behind how it tracks things is amazing. I'm able to now track all the opportunities that I come across for clients. So as I'm sitting with a client and meeting with them and going through and review, I may recognize certain opportunities. Well, now I have a place that I can store that information, so I can very quickly say, okay, well, what opportunities do I have available to me that I can start working on to generate some revenue? And so as a result, it's just the way its logic is set up. It just truly is a system that understands the financial planning sales process and how you need to work through, how when somebody's a prospect, then they become a client, that transition takes place. And when that happens, it makes sure that it's amazing. It's just, all this has been programmed into it, and it was very easy to do. So I'd highly recommend that. The other great thing is that everybody is always on the same version. One of the things that drove me nuts was when a company would come out with a new version or an update or a patch or something, then you had to get everybody's computer patched. And the problem with that is that you generally needed to have some IT guy come in and do it for you. Well, no longer do we have to ever worry about that, because Salesforce, when they upgrade, a company who's on their platform like Dell, when they upgrade Dell's system, my system gets updated too. Everybody gets done at the same time. So whether you're a 1 or 2 person user to a 500 or 600 team user, then doesn't matter. Everybody gets the same priority, same update. Everything just works. So it's an amazing system. But it works really, really well, and I would highly, highly recommend that. And now with the software as well, the one thing you want to make sure is that all the different software that you're using, you want to go cloud-based. Cloud-based everything. You want to move everything up to the clouds and get rid of your reliance on servers and installing software on your machine, because the cleaner your machine is, my machine, my goal is to make it so all I have on my machine are basically some basic little software programs, nothing critical, and everything is then accessed through my web browser. So, focus on cloud-based solutions for everything, and you're also going to want to make sure you have an account with GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. This system has changed my life. We basically, ran into a situation where we had not enough time and too many meetings. And we found that it was just getting difficult, and people would cancel, and we'd have periods of time when people couldn't make it in for whether it be weather delay or a rain delay, or something just would come up and you couldn't get everybody in. Well, when we would call and book appointments with people, we would then say, okay, well, we'd like to get together with you, and they say, well, we can't really make it right now. We've got there's kids or there's obligations or whatnot. And we say, well, why don't we do it virtually? And for review meetings, it's amazing. Once you've built a relationship with a client, the review meetings are phenomenal. And when you can do it on a GoToMeeting session, clients love it because they hear you, they see what you're looking at, they see all the same pages that you'd normally be showing them on a face-to-face meeting. But it's all virtual, and it makes people very efficient. I've had clients who now, I'd say probably 30 to 40% of our clients now call in, or when we call them to book an appointment with them, they request an online meeting. And that just blows me away. So it makes efficiencies for everybody. Clients love it. I love it. We always offer it as a secondary option. I always want to make sure that I give them the face-to-face time if they want it. But if they want the online meeting, then I'm good with that. So definitely step 2, cut the cord on everything you possibly can. Go cloud-based wherever you can. Go virtual with your system, your computer, your phone. Don't get too tied into your desk and chair and all that sort of stuff, but definitely cut the cord. Now, the third step is you need to now, because you're really kind of transient, you need to create really good workflow systems within your office. So you want to create office procedures that must be followed inherently. And so one of the reasons why I gravitated towards Salesforce is because I could actually map out those workflows in Salesforce so that the system was smart enough to know that when this happens, assign these tasks. When that happens, assign these tasks. And I was able to map it out so that nothing fell through the cracks, and I didn't have to be there to make sure everything was working. The other thing that we do is we image and scan every document that comes into our office. So if it comes in and it pertains to a client, we image it and we instantly attach it to that client's file. So we've got a virtual file for them. Now, we keep the original, but we've got a virtual file for them that we can always turn to, because remember, if you're not in the office, you can't go to the file. So you're going to need to access that information somehow, and that's how we do it. So we scan everything in. And all it is scan it in, turn it into a PDF file, attach that PDF file to the client record, and there you go. So making sure you've got the office procedures is key. We've pre-programmed that into our Salesforce.com workflow so that we make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. And we're constantly updating that as we come across and find new things that we can do to automate things, to trigger, to make sure things are always happening. Then we're incorporating that. Scanning all the documents is important. Create a meeting control sheet. Okay, now a meeting control sheet, what it does is it allows you, while you're in your meeting, it gives you the ability to record all of the things, like the next actions that you need to do for a client, the opportunities that you've recognized, anything that you need to do, any notes you need to make, all that sort of stuff. Then you want to be able to have a place to record that. So the control sheet is really the document which records the information that took place at the meeting, but also identifies opportunities and what the next actions are, things that you said you would do for the client. So when I finish the meeting, I walk out and I basically hand my control sheet over to my assistant, and she takes it and then images it in. So I've got a copy of it in the system. She goes through it and then starts logging all the tasks, because I've been able to say, okay, well, this needs to be done. Here's who needs to do it. And so we log everything down, write any notes to people back and forth, write notes to people so that they can see exactly what needs to be done. And then people just go ahead and do it. So it's a great way for communicating the information that is so top of mind, so you don't have to go back after the fact and listen to things or remember what notes were needing to be done and to-dos and all that sort of stuff. So it's all done right there, and it becomes very efficient. Then as I said, the control sheet would then get imaged into the system. So we've always got a copy of that we can refer to if need be. And then the workflow just seems to work. So we've got a place for everything. Now, you also want to make sure that you're creating meeting templates to standardize your meeting workflow. So the thing that I'm doing a lot of now is I'm going through and saying, okay, as I'm going through and saying, let's say I identify an opportunity where a client's coming up to the point where they're just getting ready, or they're maybe getting close to the end of a 10-year term on a term policy. And we know right off the bat that they're probably not going to want to renew at the rates that the insurance companies are renewing at. They're healthy. We know we can get them better insurance elsewhere. So we want to do a comparison and say, look, why don't we reshop the market, recanvas the market, and see if we can get you a better rate somewhere else. So we go ahead and we do that. Now, what I've done is I've templated that process. So it allows my team to put all the information together. So I basically say, do a new term versus old term comparison using this certain template. They go ahead and they fill in the blanks, and they put the package together. So basically 90% of the work has been done. I then get it, take a look at the results, and then I can put my fine tuning on it. But it really allows me to get the job done without having to do it myself, because a lot of that is kind of just routine, and there's sort of a process that we follow. So anytime we recognize there's a process for doing something, we document that process. The other thing that we do is we document it not only in, what a lot of people do now is they put checklists or that sort of thing together, but I will actually document it in a video format. So we record how to do things via video, because remember, everything is so virtual. Everything is pretty much done on the computer. So what I do is I'll do it once. I'll record myself doing it. I'll narrate what I'm doing while I'm doing it. So now I'm building an online training manual so that when we have somebody new come in and they say, well, how do you do an address change? I simply say, well, just go to our system, and in Salesforce, you can, we've stored all of our videos, and we've got a bit of a library and an interface where you go in and say, okay, well, type in a keyword for address change. They type in address change, and every document and video that has address change attached to it comes up. Well, in that case, there's only one. It's a video. It comes up, and it basically walks them through start to finish on how to do it. So it's an instant training tool. I don't have to worry about training anybody, and it just seems to work. So you definitely want to take advantage of creating workflow systems. Think about how things are getting done. Think about the process you go through for every meeting. And you know what? It's probably quite similar. There may be some small nuances, but the reality is it's probably quite similar, whether you're putting together an insurance needs analysis, whether you're putting together a financial plan, whether you're putting together an investment recommendation. There's probably a process you follow. Identify that process, document it, and then you'll be able to hand that off and create workflows around it. So that's the third one. So now moving on to step 5. You have now, really, if you haven't done this already, hire an assistant. It will be the most amazing. You'll get so much return from your investment on that. I never, ever look at my staff as expenses. They're always an investment, because when I hire somebody, if I'm paying them 40, 50, 60, whatever the number is, when I'm paying them, I need to get a definite return on that investment. And so we always look for ways that they can help me leverage off of that. So the thing about an assistant is they're the ones that are going to go to the office. They're the ones that are going to have the presence in the office. They're going to handle all of the admin. You as a financial planner do not want to be bogging yourself down with admin. You need to have somebody do that. You're basically losing money every time you touch a document. What I say to clients, because when I first started, every client came back to me and they always wanted me to do things because in their mind, I was the one that was going to do it perfectly. Well, I've realized that I was just getting bogged down with admin. So we hired an assistant, and basically I say to clients, look, if you want it done, I'll do it. But if you want it done right, then you're going to have my assistant do it. And they kind of chuckle at that, but they get the message. And they start recognizing that, your assistant's there for a reason. They're not just somebody that you're barking orders at, but this is somebody who can handle quite a few things for them. So they handle all the admin. When you come out of a meeting, they're the ones that take the file and the control sheet and record everything that needs to be done. I remember years ago, when I was starting out, I remember listening to Bill Good, and he always talked about the first hire you want to do is a data entry person. And I recognize that, data entry, I thought, what's the point of all that? What a waste. I just didn't see the value. Well, once I started following this process, I recognize the value, because when I come out, I hand everything off to my assistant, and then she takes it. She records all the information, records all the notes. Everything gets put in there. Compliance is happy. Everything just works, and I can now move on to the next one. So when I come out of a meeting, my assistant takes the file. My assistant takes the control sheet. She records all the items and then processes everything, because she knows what the next step is. They're the ones that your assistants are the ones that are going to prepare for each meeting to the extent that they can using your meeting templates. So if you've done a good job, you should be able to get 80 to 90% of your meeting prep done by your staff, because you've templated and you've put together sort of the core of how things are to be done. And then really what you're doing is you're just checking it over the week before, the day before the meeting, just to make sure everything's done right and that it all makes sense. So, definitely your final set of eyes are the ones that are going to go on it, but putting those templates together are simply going to make it easier for your staff to be able to handle things for you. All incoming calls, as I said before, you never want to be answering your own phone. You never want to be taking incoming calls. They are a true waste of time. 99% or 95% of all calls that come in are a waste of time. But the way I've set it up is when a call comes in, I don't answer it. My message says that for immediate assistance, they can hit 0 when it goes to my assistant. If they do that, nine times out of 10, they will. If they don't, the email gets sent to me with the voicemail attached to it. I listen to it immediately, and then I get right back to them, and everybody's happy with that. So definitely don't handle any incoming calls. Transfer all that off to your assistant. They're the ones, your assistant are also the ones that manage your calendar. So all the scheduling, all the booking, everything is done by your assistant. So you sort of get into a bit of a groove. Your assistant gets to know what you like, what you don't, how you like to do it, how much time you like in between meetings. All that stuff gets worked out. But it works out really well. The thing I find about it as well is that when it comes time to book meetings, the one thing I was doing was I was always kind of hesitant about, I don't want to book too many meetings that day. Well, I basically give it to my assistant. She goes ahead, she books all my meetings. I give her some criteria about how many meetings I want to have in a day, at what times I want the meetings, and so on and so forth. And then she just goes and she starts doing it. And, it's amazing how quickly, how you can keep your calendar full by letting somebody else fill it up for you. So let them manage your calendar. Now, what you can do is you'll want to, every so often go in, and if you've got certain things you need to block off, just block off that time and make sure, and then they just don't book around that. So that's the other benefit of having a cloud-based system is that, whatever you change, whenever you change it, whether it be on your iPhone while you're, in a coffee shop, whether it be on your iPad when you're, on a plane, or whether it be on your computer when you're, somewhere else. It's all real time. It all happens immediately. So everybody gets updated instantly. There's none of this having to synchronize at the end of the day. And that, again, used to drive me nuts. I've had too many situations when I would synchronize, something would go wrong, and then I'd get a double entry of everything. So I had a situation where, a sync went wrong, and what ended up happening was the sync basically put everybody on my system twice. So I had duplicate entries. Oh, it was a nightmare. So I'm never going to go through that again, because now everybody's dealing with one record, real time, and it just it happens that way. So lay out on your schedule. You're going to want to lay out the days and times that you're available for client meetings, so that your assistant knows when to book. So it is kind of a relationship you build with your assistant. You say, look, these are the times when I'm good. This is when I'm not, and so really focus on doing that. So step number 4, hire an assistant as quickly as you possibly can. Get somebody in the office, and then give them the responsibility to book your meetings, handle your calendar, handle all the admin requests, really do all that stuff. Give them the resources, the people they can contact if they have any questions, and let them run their side of the business, which is really the client service. And then step number 5, this one is very important, because when you're virtual, you can do anything you want. You can be anywhere you want. So what you want to do is, at the beginning of each week, you want to set up what I call your ideal week. Now, your ideal week, this is how mine works. So on Monday morning, I have a routine that I go through, and I plan my week in advance. So I know exactly what I'm coming up against. I know exactly what's happening. I'm not reacting to anything, and this is the way it works. So number 1, on Monday morning, I get up. First thing I do is I print off an ideal week sheet. Then I outline the 3 most important activities that need to get done that week. These are my 3 critical to-dos. I mean, if nothing else gets done that week, those 3 things absolutely have to get done. Then I focus on doing those 3 things as quickly as I possibly can. If I can get those 3 things done in the first day, then anything else I get done that week is a bonus. So really focus on those 3 things. Do them as quickly as possible. Try and blow them off. Sometimes you can't, because generally if it's a really important thing, it's probably going to require a lot of work. But get it moved forward and focus your energy toward getting those 3 things done. Log all of the meetings that you need to prepare for, and do all the prep on Mondays. Never ever have meetings on a Monday. Monday is a sacred day. Do not let anybody in on that day. It is your day that allows you to prepare for your entire week. So set it up that way. What that means is no meetings for me. I have no meetings on Mondays. I have no phone calls, no nothing. All it is for me is getting prepped. So I set up my 3 critical activities. I then look at all my meetings that I have that week, and I go through preparing each one, and I prepare them in the order that the meetings occur. So if for any reason I do run late and I can't get everything done, at least my first meetings that I got done were the meetings for the next day. It sounds pretty logical, but sometimes it just, people tend to gravitate to the easy meetings first. And the problem with the easy meetings is that at the end, you're left with the hard ones. And if you're too tired to do them, you probably don't get them done as well. So what I do, I do them in the order that they're supposed to be done. That's the way I record them on my to-do sheet. And I focus on doing it. And I get the meeting done so that it's basically the package or the meeting notes or the meeting documents or whatever are on a file. So at the beginning of the week on my assistant's desk are all my meetings chronologically ordered in the order that I'm going to be having them, complete, where I just have to walk into the office, pick up the file, walk into the meeting, and everything is there. That's the point you want to get to. So by the end of Monday, you never have anything outstanding. You want to list on your initial sheet, the one that you're setting up for the ideal week, you want to list the strategic projects that you would like to work on or move forward that week. So your week isn't always devoted to just client meetings. You've also got other projects that you're working on and things that you want to get done. So you want to list those, and then you want to sort of work your schedule so you've got time to do all those things. Because there are some things that, for me, it could be podcasting. For me, it could be, coming up with ideas and putting some show notes together for upcoming podcasts, putting together templates, putting together, whatever it may be, other stuff that isn't directly related to meeting with a client, but stuff that has to get done. So those are what I call strategic projects. And so you want to say, okay, well, what strategic projects do I want to move forward this week? So you're not going to necessarily get them done, but you are going to move them forward. You're then going to keep the ideal week sheet handy so that throughout the week you can constantly refer to it to keep you on track. There's nothing worse, and this is what I say about financial planning. Don't write the plan once and then never look at it again. You've got to keep on coming back to it. So put your ideal week sheet together, have it with you at all times, and it's basically the roadmap for your week. Always follow it. Whenever you get concerned or whenever your thoughts, you get tired and you say, okay, what do I have to do next? Go back to that sheet, do the next thing on the list, and you'll always make sure that everything is getting done. Especially if you've mapped it out where you've got your 3 critical things that have to get done. You've got your meeting prep. All that gets done on Monday. So pretty much at the end of Monday, there's nothing that is going to creep up on you as a deadline that you haven't met. Anything else that you work on that week is going to be somewhat gravy. So look at it that way, and it's amazing how the mindset allows you to get so much more done when you know you're not up against the wall. So what I've done as well is I've determined the purpose of each day. So I lay out my week where my first day, so this is my Monday, is what I call a prep day. So it's basically the day that I prepare for everything. Now, a lot of this, comes back to a person who I think is just from an entrepreneurial standpoint is phenomenal. His name is Dan Sullivan. For those of you who don't know him, he's the strategic coach. Fantastic program. He has a concept called free focus buffer days. And really, this is my take on that. So free focus buffer days are the sort of the time management system through the strategic coach. And really, a lot of this is based on that. So a no work day, kind of like a free day, that's where you map it. Okay, well, of the 7 days that I have in the week, what days am I just simply not going to work? Plan those first so you can look forward to them. Okay, I've got these days off. And when I mean days off, I mean you do not work. You do not think about work. You do not look at work. You do everything you can to stay away from work because those are the rejuvenation days. That's the day when you're going to actually, allow yourself to be free from the shackles of work and sort of clear your mind and enjoy what life has to offer. Then I have what's called money days. And money days are days where I know that on those days, I'm making money. I'm doing any tasks, any items that are going to allow me to make money. Those are the things I do on those days. Those are high energy days. I'm going to focus on those things, and those are going to be revenue generation days. Then I've got prep days. So my typical week, I've got Monday, which is a prep day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my money days. And then Friday is more of it could be a prep day or it could be a no work day. So I could have obligations with, my kids are highly involved in dance, competitive dance. Each one of them right now is in 5 different competitive dance groups. So, we tend to be, we're not hockey moms and dads, we're dance moms and dads. So we tend to be on the road quite a bit, getting them to and from dance competitions and dance practice and whatnot. So I may have a day where if there's a lot of dance or if there's a competition we have to go to, well, my Friday is going to turn into, a no work day. So it's a day that I can take off. And if I plan that in advance, everything seems to work. I do highly recommend as well that you consider just having a 4-day work week. It's amazing how much you can get done in 4 days. You can pretty much get the same amount done in 4 days that you can in 5, but the benefit from doing it in 4 is that you've got that 5th day as a free day and it's a day off. Now, you do have to work harder, but I tend to think that a lot of financial planners are not as efficient as they could be because they've given themselves 5 days to do everything in. Well, you know what? Give yourself 4 days and say, these are the days that I have to work. Do everything in that, and you know what? You'll probably get more done because you're going to be that much busier. And what do they say about if you want something done, give it to a busy person? Well, that's exactly what you'll do. So set yourself up for success with that. So determine the purpose of each day, map it out. My core week, as I said, Monday's a prep day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my money days, and then Friday is sort of a floating day. It could be a prep day or it could be a non-work day. And then simply execute the week. So once you've got that all laid out, you want to then simply execute. You're in execution mode. You've mapped it out, you've planned it out, you know exactly what needs to be done, you've thought about it in advance. Now go and do it. So those are the 5 steps. So just going to list those 5 steps for you here. So step number 1, get your head wrapped around the idea of going virtual, become that virtual planner, get the idea, get comfortable with it, and then start moving forward on doing it. Step number 2 is cut the cord, get rid of all the things that tie you to any sort of an office environment. Cut the cord so you can work anywhere and give yourself some tests. It doesn't have to happen overnight, but test yourself. Say, today I'm going to go and I'm not going to work from home. I'm going to go work from a Starbucks. Go to the Starbucks and see what you can get done. And whatever you're missing, missing, start putting the things in place that you need in order to get things done by being in a different location. So cut the cord with that. Number 3, create workflow systems. So you've got to then map things out and say, okay, well, what do I do? How do I need to get things done? How are we going to make sure that everything does get done? Who's going to do what? And so map out those systems, map out those unique methods and processes. Then hire an assistant. So once you've created the workflow, now you can say, okay, well then this component of the workflow, this is what you're going to do. And so you can start to delegate properly, but you can't delegate until you know what you need to delegate. And a good delegation means you're delegating responsibility for it as well. So you want to make sure that other people you're giving them the control and the responsibility for those tasks. That will make them be more engaged in what their job is, and it just makes for a better delegation. So hiring the assistant, now that you've hired the assistant, you've got the work for them to do, and then map out your ideal week at the beginning of each week by setting up the top 3 priorities. These are the crucial things that absolutely have to get done that week. Put them up at the top of your list. Map out your week and say, this day is going to be a prep day. This day is going to be a money day. These days are going to be free days or time off or whatnot. And basically enjoy the week. Start enjoying the weeks. Have every day seem like it's a Friday or a Saturday. And, if you can start to live life that way, it makes for a much more enjoyable experience. So definitely follow those 5 steps. Get your head wrapped around the idea, cut the cord, create workflow systems, hire an assistant, and then map out your ideal week. And you will become so much more efficient. You will have so much more enjoyment. You will not have to be, commuting and working. And the commute to me is one of the things that really drove me to this process of becoming virtual, because I didn't want to be in my car all the time. And so I've just been able to set things up so that I can be virtually anywhere, whether it be my home office, my cottage, my coffee shop, my coffee shop down the road for my kids' dance class, in my kids' dance reception area, wherever it happens to be. Doesn't matter. I've got all the tools that I need with me that I can get everything done. So at this point now, you want to go ahead, get out there, start doing it. Ask me any questions. Go to fee-basedfinancialplanningmastery.com. Click on episode 2. There you can post any questions you have that you want me to answer, anything whatsoever. Just get there, start our communication with me, and I'll answer everything I can. And also, go to our toolbox and the recommended reading list on our website on Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery. Go to the toolbox. In there, you'll see a listing of other resources I use to run my successful fee-based financial planning practice. So you're going to see links to things like GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, anything you need, any software we use, there'll be links to that there. Some of them are affiliate links, so I want you to be aware of that I will receive some compensation for some of those. But hey, I'm making you aware of some really powerful tools. So definitely check it out. Go to the toolbox, check out the resources, and build yourself a better practice.
You've been listening to Scott E. Plaskett, a certified financial planner and industry veteran in the world of fee-based financial planning. Want free resources to help you build a better fee-based financial planning firm? Visit ilovefinancialplanning.com right now to register for Scott's Inner Circle email list, where you'll get front-of-the-line updates on the latest resources that are driving profits to Scott's fee-based financial planning practice. All of the resources are pulled directly from the highly acclaimed Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery Academy. Go now to ilovefinancialplanning.com. Build a better business and make more money with your fee-based financial planning practice today.